Don't let the Celtics win today, Grant Mitchell. Don't let them win today. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is Ride the Line, the greatest sports betting show in sports betting entertainment that you will ever find in the history of the world. And the Boston Celtics are going to win the Eastern Conference Finals in 7 games. Grant Mitchell, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tanner, and I got the spirit of Boston in me because unlike you who gave up on your own team, I bet the Boston Celtics on the money line in Game 4, and they pulled through for me.
I bet them on the money line as well. I just cashed out a lot of futures and then went in on those futures. The vibes were pretty low after Game 3, Grant. The vibes couldn't have been lower.
Yeah, it was really bad. I mean, being down 3-0 to an 8 seed when you had home court advantage, definitely better positions to be in.
Yeah, there's better positions to be in. Just like being on this show right now, Ride the Line, the greatest show in sports betting entertainment. Again, guys, we're going to break down the NBA playoffs, the MLB, potentially the MLB. We're going to do a lot of NBA talk today. We're going to talk about the AFC North. We're also going to talk about Michael Block, the golfer turned the PGA, the golfer pro. That's how you say it, I guess. How do you even say it, Grant?
The golf pro, PGA pro, I don't know.
The golf pro, like just your local golf pro turned PGA Championship superstar. We're going to break that all down on the show. But before we do that, remember to subscribe, like, share, follow, do it all. Go to WSN.com, get your content in, guys, and leave a comment in the description below. We really appreciate all that.
Yep, 100%. Tanner, you brought it up, and let's not bury the lead. Let's get right into it here. Boston Celtics, they get their first win of the conference finals. They beat the Miami Heat in Game 4, 116-99. And this is the important part, Tanner. They were losing at the end of the first quarter. They were losing at halftime, and they flipped the script on its head. They've been a mentally weak team a lot of the times this season. The Miami Heat have been the total opposite in these playoffs. They've been able to come back. They've been able to pull upsets. The Heat were undefeated at home. None of that mattered because Jayson Tatum said, I am not going out in a sweep. He had 33 points, 24 of them in the second half. He had 11 rebounds, which is big for me as an over 10.5 rebound bettor. And he also had 7 assists. He's the PRA king. Tanner, this was one win. They got to get 4 in a row, so they still have 3 left. But it was an impressive win. Can't take that away from them.
Tatum's nuts finally dropped in the fourth quarter last night. So that was good to see because we haven't seen that throughout the entire series. Okay, Greg, before we talk about last night's game, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the Celtics coming back. Okay, so we look at Boston teams in 3-1 holes, or 3-0 holes, I should say. Boston teams in 3-0 holes. Let's go back to the 2004 Boston Red Sox. The team there had less of a chance of being the New York Yankees. The Yankees were a powerhouse that year. This series, this Celtics series, this should be the one where it's the first NBA team to come back 3-0. Don't let us win today. Well, they won today. Because then we go to Game 5 at home. That's a lock. Charles Barkley said it. Give me my FanDuel account because I'm going to go nuke this team. The Boston Celtics are winning that game. Game 6 on the road, you got to steal one, but you're the better team. And then Game 7, you're back at home. All bets are off. You're going to win Game 7 at home, in my opinion. This Celtics team could do it. Like, crazier things have happened.
Look, I thought a 3-0 comeback was on the board for the Lakers and the Celtics. I thought the Lakers, it was the LeBron storyline. What's the one thing he hasn't done in his career? Obviously, he's made the 3-1 comeback. Why not add to his legacy with a 3-0 comeback? And for a lot of the reasons you were talking about, the Lakers hadn't lost at home until they lost Game 3, and they had the best record in the NBA post-trade deadline. There were a lot of those factors built up from the season, tangible evidence that you could point to, just like we have tangible evidence with the Celtics. Throughout the entire regular season, they were better than the Miami Heat. They have maybe the best player in the series. Certainly in a vacuum, Tatum's better. Now, if you want to argue who's better, Tatum or Butler in just the playoffs, then it becomes a more interesting conversation. But Jaylen Brown is a better number 2 than Bam Adebayo on most nights. Granted, he hasn't been playing like it in this series. The Celtics supporting cast is better and deeper than the Miami Heat's, although, again, granted, the Heat's has been playing better. The Heat, they're not going to have nights where they shoot 51% from 3 like they have in this series. That 30% that they were at in Game 4, that's closer to the 34% they were at in the regular season, whereas Boston, they shot 40%, but they can do that. They were one of the league's best three-point shooting teams throughout the season. In my personal opinion, what I think is going to be crucial for Boston, not just in Game 5, but in the rest of the series, is when you get to that 8-minute mark in the fourth quarter, are you winning by 4 points or are you losing by 4 points? If you're losing by 4 or 5, look, I like Tatum. I do trust Tatum in the clutch. I know it's been a topic of conversation that he's somewhat disappeared because he hadn't made a fourth quarter field goal until game 4, hadn't made one in the first 3. But I think Tatum shows up in the big moments. What I'm worried about is Joe Mazzulla, because although he is overmatched, he's not supposed to be in this position. Ime Udoka was supposed to be the head coach. We know about all the trouble he got himself into. And Will Hardy was the lead assistant, but he got poached by the Utah Jazz. Joe Mazzulla is supposed to be third in line. I don't think it's totally fair to be calling for his head because he's had a bad playoffs. But you can't be down 4 points against the best coach in the NBA coming up to the end of the game with Joe Mazzulla as your head coach. Those are just the facts. If you're up 4 points, I like your chances. So that's what I'm going to be paying attention to. How do the Celtics enter the fourth quarter?
So when I look at the fourth quarter last night, I actually tweeted this. I was a little concerned because they were up by double digits and it got down to 9. I think it got down to 7 at one point potentially. And I'm like, we've been in this situation in 2 of the 3 games and we haven't won a game, obviously. So the fourth quarter is going to be huge. The game doesn't even start till the fourth quarter with these 2 teams because the Heat have shown they can overcome a double-digit deficit at that point, and the Celtics have shown that they can blow these leads. But the biggest thing that I'm looking at right now, Boston has confidence. They had no confidence early in the series. The locker room was lost, as Joe Mazzulla had said. But I was listening to the Miami Heat radio broadcast last night as I was driving home from my buddy's house with a few minutes left in the game. And they were saying, we're going back to Boston, and you just gave the best team in basketball life. You gave the best team in the NBA life this year. You had them on one knee, and you allowed them to get back up. And now they know they can beat you. And then you got game 5 at home, and that's probably leaning towards the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics are an 8-point favorite in that game. Then you got game 6 on the road. Hey, that's the best shot the Heat have to win. And then game 7 back at home. Like, Boston is as much in the driver's seat as they could possibly be for a 3-1 deficit right now. And you look at the future markets, I think the Heat are plus 250 to win the NBA Finals. You look at the Celtics, they're plus 350. And I know that's a whole nother series after this, but the betting markets aren't really favoring the Heat that much over the Boston Celtics right now.
No, they're not. And I do agree with what you said about it's kind of hard to find a team that has as much momentum and authority in a 3-1 hole as the Celtics do. But there are still some things that Heat bettors, Heat fans, and can be proud of, and Celtics fans need to be wary of. For example, Boston's only 4-5 at home in these playoffs, and obviously they lost the first 2 games of this series at home. Also, coming off of a cover in this postseason, Boston is only 3-5 against the spread. They're 8-8 against the spread throughout the entire postseason, but 3-5 against the spread coming off of a cover. Also, we know that role players tend to play better at home. But Jaylen Brown, not even been close to his best. He gives you 17 points on 43% last night in game 4. He just hasn't been himself. He hasn't looked very good. And they really should not have been able to win that game with just Jayson Tatum. And it was a great game from Tatum, but only 33 points. When Jaylen Brown's as bad as he was, when you've got other players missing some opportunities in the first half, you can make the argument that they could have lost that game. And then Malcolm Brogdon, the 6th man of the year, he has 2 points in the last 2 games. That's not going to fly. You can't be a class below Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin. We know that the commentators love to say it, the 7 undrafted free agents. You've got to get better performances from your impact players. So a lot of positives for the Celtics, but still a lot of things to hold on to optimism if you are a Heat fan. And also one last thing I didn't even mention, game 6, Eastern Conference Finals last year in Boston, Jimmy Butler, team down 3-2, drops 47-9-8 to force a game 7. You don't want that Jimmy Butler showing up in your home building.
No, but the Jayson Tatum that shows up can neutralize that at least. And then it comes down to the role players. And I do believe the Celtics role players are going to start getting going as they go home and then throughout the rest of the series if they can keep forcing games. Grant Williams was pretty good last night. Celtics played very intense on the defensive end of the floor. They showed up, and that was the positive for me. And again, they have life. Don't think they're not in the locker room right now saying, hey, we should have won game 1. We should have won game 2. We got blown out in game 3, whatever. And we won game 4. Don't think they're not saying that. They could easily be up 3-1 or have the series tied 2-2 right now. It's a totally different series. So if you're going to bet the Celtics to win the series right now, do it now because I think they're plus 230 in that range. If they win one more game and make it 3-2, I think they become the favorite.
I'm going to disagree with you, Tanner. I don't think those odds are even close to profitable enough for you to want to bet. Like, I would not be considering betting on any team to come back from a 3-1 deficit unless we're at least plus 800 to 1,000 range. Plus 230, we're just doubling up on the risk. That's not worth it for me for any team again in a 3-1 bowl.
2x. Come on now. This team's better, though, Grant. That's the bottom line. You're getting beat by Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus. Obviously, those guys are performing, but the Celtics have life right now, and you've never been able to get them for close to plus 230 throughout these series. You know what's amazing, too? I still go back to when the Bucks were down 3-1, and they were like plus 120 to win the series against the Heat. That was a little embarrassing, but for 230, I'll take it. I went on the Celtics to win the NBA Finals at like plus 430 yesterday, so I'm pretty pumped up about that. They're going to get the job done, Grant.
As far as the team having belief in itself, I do want to run this by you because I personally think that Jaylen Brown just doesn't have his confidence right now, and he can get going. He has the talent. I mean, he averaged 27 points per game in the regular season. He was second team all the NBA, but he's not doing well in this series. But what was almost more important for me, as bad as Jaylen looked, do you remember, by the way, Jaylen had a free throw where he barely got it to the rim? Like, that's how out of rhythm he is. That's how low his confidence right now. But Marcus Smart, they're down 6 going into halftime. Marcus Smart misses the final shot of the half. He's running around, patting his teammates on the back, no breaking body language, comes out in the second half, makes some really big threes. Awesome defense. I mean, it's kind of cliche to say that Marcus Smart is the vocal leader of this team, but he is. And if your leader is giving you all he can and your star player is performing at a superstar level, you've always got a chance. And for me, that's bigger than Jaylen Brown's slump. And we're going to talk more about Jaylen Brown, but I wouldn't be too overly concerned as long as those other two are locked in like they are.
Yeah, Marcus Smart defined Boston basketball. He's gritty. Like Jayson Tatum, a little bit of a pretty boy, complains a lot. Marcus Smart's just out there getting after it every single night. And that's why you love Marcus Smart. He's going to take charges. He's going to be effective on defense. He's going to be gritty on offense. He's going to pass the ball. He's going to make plays happen, facilitate offense. And he's going to lead this team. And I think he's going to be huge down the stretch. All these guys got to make shots. You need Brown, Tatum, and Smart to make your shots. You need the bench to make shots because obviously the Celtics' strength has been in numbers all season. And we're finally starting to see that. I think Jaylen Brown's going to get going. It might take a little time. But when it comes to game 5, Grant, Tatum needs to be the guy again. It needs to be game 5, Tatum, game 6, Tatum, game 7, Tatum for them to advance. And I'm going to lay the points with the Celtics here.
I am not going to lay the points with the Celtics. I'm going to disagree with you here. I mentioned some stats earlier, 3-5 against the spread in the playoffs.
Can I say something off that?
Go ahead.
Cut you off. When you're getting double-digit spreads in every game, the fact that they are 8-8 against the spread in the playoffs is pretty impressive to me.
I might agree if in most circumstances, if they hadn't been losing the games that they weren't covering in. If they were winning by 5 or 6 points, then I would say, okay, you've got a point. It's the Kansas City Chiefs problem. That's not been what's happening. They go 6 games with the Atlanta Hawks. I think about it. What were they favored by 10 points in game 1 against the 76ers when Embiid, the league MVP, doesn't play and they lose outright? They lose game 4 on another James Harden game-winning 3. They lose the first 3 games in this series. By the way, favorites in this series, the Heat Celtics series, 0-4 so far. So that's another thing to keep your eye on. So I'm not going to give you that one. I think I don't think that quite holds up in this situation. It's a little different from usual. But that line, it's too big, -8. I'm going to be honest. I do think the Celtics are going to find a way to win this game, but I can't soundly say that. I can't say -8 is good betting advice. I would say take the Heat at +8. I don't know the odds you could get for parlaying the two of them, and that's also very, very risky. Heat +8 is my best bet, but I do think the Celtics are going to find a way to win.
Yeah, if I have to look at a line, I'll take that. I don't know if I'd necessarily play that. I'll probably put the Celtics at like an alternate spread in a parlay and combine with Jayson Tatum points. But Jayson Tatum points is going to be my main bet in this one, just because for the Celtics to win, if you believe the Celtics are going to win, Jayson Tatum needs to go over 29.5 points. It's just that simple. Would you agree with that, Grant?
Not only that, Tanner, he's the PRA king. Give me a Jayson Tatum PRA. What do you have the other night? Last night, 33, 11, and 7. PRA king. Lock it up.
And then also, too, with the PRA thing, it's like, even if he's not scoring, there's been times where he's come alive late scoring-wise, only finished with like 20 points, but he's also had, 12 rebounds and 10 assists, and it's been a triple-double for him, and he still hit the PRA. So he stays locked in on all sides of the floor, even when he's not scoring. But right now, like, You saw what Tatum was doing with those threes in the fourth quarter, like the step back threes. Like when he's just waiting for the shot clock to drift down just to take a very contested shot and he's making them, that's when you know Jayson Tatum is locked in. And that's when you know if you're a Heat bettor, it's probably a good time to cash out on your future bets because the Celtics are coming for your ass.
Yeah, I agree with Jayson Tatum. I think you got to look at him to score a lot of points in this next game. But my favorite market for him, if it's not the PRA, it's the rebounds. He had an 18 rebound game already in these playoffs. He's quietly become one of the best rebounders in the playoffs. He's averaging over 10 a game, had 11 last night. I like to look at him for that. Tanner, we spent enough time talking about Tatum, though. Let's dive into Jaylen Brown because what is going on with Jaylen Brown? And I just want to set the stage. I think that Jaylen Brown has hit the point where he says, okay, I'm an established player now. I was young. I was improving. I was the second star on a team. But now, even if I am still the second star, I am a star in the league. I averaged 27 a game. I was second team All-NBA, multi-time All-Star. I'm about to get the Supermax contract. So he started making these strange comments. After the games, he says, I'm okay here. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Oh, my relationship with whoever, yeah, it's all right. Me and Jason, we're okay. And he has the weird situation where he cuts his hand on a vase, which I don't believe at all. He's been very mercurial lately. And I think that it is such a problem for him. And a season where the Celtics, they made it to the finals last year, which is an achievement. But now the expectations were higher than ever before. You've really got to at least make it back to the finals this year for the season not to be a disappointment. And in the biggest series of the season so far, potentially of your career, you've kind of gone missing. And it's a very decisive, important time for Jaylen Brown. And it's the wrong time to be missing in action like that.
Yeah, because he's trying to get a Supermax from the Celtics. And I do think all the comments we were talking about before is more like a negotiation tactic, right? We've seen guys come out and say, I'm not happy here, or I'm I look at not Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, right? He was on a deal with the Padres for another X amount of years, a good amount of years. And he came out and he was like, I'm not happy with this money. Like, guys are getting more. Like, I don't know if I'll be here long term. We're going to negotiate. And then the Padres get him a deal, right? So I do think some of those, you got to take a lot of those comments with a grain of salt from all players just because they are negotiation tactics. If you tell the media something, it blows up and then fans get mad and blah, blah, blah. But this is a bad time for Jaylen Brown to go missing because if Jaylen Brown was showing up his usual self, the Celtics probably are 2-2 in this series at least because he's been terrible down the stretch. Not even just lack of scoring, just turnovers and stupid mistakes. And I'm going to, Tatum's done his fair share of those too, but at least he's scoring.
And Jaylen Brown, I think he's trying so hard to get back into his rhythm that he's really just become a black hole. There's so many instances. I don't know if you saw the screenshot from game 3 where there were 5 Heat defenders making a circle around him and he still shot the ball. He had 4 open teammates and he didn't pass it. And I get the same sort of feeling that I was getting with D'Angelo Russell before he got benched was the ball goes to him. Everybody might as well, you just start jogging back down court. It's not coming to you. Jaylen is shooting the ball. It doesn't matter if you got it at half court. It doesn't matter if you got it under the rim. He's putting the ball up somehow. I feel like he's trying so hard. And I don't know if it's personally for him trying to regain his rhythm or maybe he's trying to prove his worth to the front office because he knows he's playing bad. I don't know what it is, but 23 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists for playoff averages. You can get worse, certainly. I mean, that's not awful for a second star, but you look around the league. Anthony Davis was the second star for the Lakers. Jamal Murray is the second star for the Nuggets. I mean, Kyle Lowry and Bam Adebayo is the second star for the Heat. Their stats aren't as good, but their impact has been a lot greater. For somebody who wants to get that Supermax deal, you kind of need to be better than he has been.
Jaylen Brown is not a star in a big market. He's a star in a small market, in my opinion. I think he's a great second star in a big market. And he's been really good, don't get me wrong, but there's no doubt about it for me as a Celtics fan. I think everyone would say this. If it comes down to Jayson Tatum with the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter or Jaylen Brown with the ball in his fourth quarter, I'd rather have Jayson Tatum. Even a cold Jayson Tatum for 3 quarters and a really good Jaylen Brown, I'd rather have Tatum shooting the ball in the fourth quarter.
Yep, I agree. Tanner, I'm not necessarily saying that Jaylen Brown is going to get traded, but I have created some trade proposals if you would like to listen to them and give me your thoughts on them. Give me a little bit of analysis.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get traded. I do think he'll be a Celtic for a long time with Jayson Tatum because this is the best duo in the NBA when they're on. But sure, I'll listen to you, Grant. Why not?
I think they would have to get shellacked in game 5 for the Celtics front office to think about it. Maybe they revisit it in a year or so and do some sort of sign and trade when that Supermax comes into effect. But we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. We don't think it's happening anytime soon, but I do think that it's a conversation that's not going to go away. So why not come up with a couple of hypotheticals here? So I've got 3 for you. I'm going to read them one at a time, obviously. You tell me which ones you like, which ones you don't. Maybe give me your favorites, whatever. So the very first one, and I feel like this is centered around a somewhat popular theme in these trade rumors, the Portland Trail Blazers. So the Boston Celtics would be trading Jaylen Brown, Grant Williams, Danilo Gallinari, and a 2025 first-round pick to get back Damian Lillard. No further explanation needed on Dame. And then Matisse Thybulle, defensive specialist. You can put him in the backcourt with Marcus Smart. Nobody's going to be scoring out of your opponent's defense. Out of the opponent's backcourt, excuse me.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. First of all, Grant Williams made shots last night, but I think Grant Williams is a somewhat of a waste of space. I think he thinks he's a lot better than he is. Would you agree with that?
I do. And I'm not fully sure if it's that sort of Patrick Beverley mentality where he's kind of tricking himself into being that. We've heard PJ Tucker talk about it, where when you're getting cooked on defense, you have to just convince yourself you're not, or else you're going to find your way on the bench. So I don't know if it's one of those, but I do think his ego is a little bigger than maybe it should be for someone of his caliber.
Yeah, I think the ego is a little too big. So I'm good giving that up. 2025 first round pick, give that up. That's fine. Just because the Celtics have guys, right? If you got Dame and Jayson Tatum together, I don't know how the dynamic would work. Because I think I'd personally rather have Dame than Jaylen Brown when they're both on. I just think,
yeah, of course,
100%. Lillard doesn't stay as healthy, has a few more injuries, but I like this trade a lot as a Celtics fan. I think it'd be really, really good. I'd be very happy about it as long as Lillard could coexist with Tatum, and then obviously Thybulle would help on the defensive side of the floor because a lot of times we need defense. We give up 120 points to teams that shouldn't even be scoring 100.
Yeah, I mean, this would make the Celtics the most explosive scoring team as far as superstars. Think about how hot Tatum can get. Think about how hot Lillard can get. And from that alone, not talking about the rest of the team, but just that alone, it's kind of like Steph and KD on the Warriors. It's just 2 guys that can go absolutely nuclear at any time. By the way, I ran all these trades through the trade machine on ESPN, so it works. It fits the salary cap for everyone, and obviously I approved it myself. So we got all the bases covered. Don't need to worry about any of these not fitting out, not cross-checking any boxes. Okay, number 2, with the Atlanta Hawks. The Celtics would trade Jaylen Brown and Derek White. They would get back DeJounte Murray, John Collins in a 2026 first. You got to get a first-round pick for a little more value, but put it a few years down the line because the Celtics, they're in championship now mode. What does a first-round pick really do? You get DeJounte Murray. It's another defensive guy, but it's also somebody who can play off the ball. We saw him doing that a lot with Trae Young. Or he can orchestrate the offense when Tatum is not on the court. The Celtics, they haven't really had a distributor from most of the past decade. I mean, Isaiah Thomas wasn't a distributor. Marcus Smart is your point guard, but he's not a distributor. You get somebody like that who's a two-way player. John Collins gives you more length at the wing, and Al Horford's getting older. You need somebody who's going to be able to come in and play longer minutes. We've seen the Celtics want to play 5 out. John Collins would be able to do that. Granted, he's not the best three-point shooter, but he can knock him down when he's open. You give up Jaylen Brown, you give up Derek White. Derek White, I think, has had a good postseason or a good season. And I think maybe you'd be a little disappointed to lose him, but you kind of got to just for the sake of this package.
I don't love this trade as much. I definitely like the Blazers trade more. I think Murray and Collins obviously add some value. You're going to have to replace Horford in the future, but I would much rather keep Jaylen Brown, keep Derek White, and keep my 2026 first-round draft pick. They're getting that. So I'd rather keep Jaylen Brown and Derek White instead of getting Murray, Collins, and a 2026 first. Like the first doesn't do as much for me because if I have Tatum and I have Brown, I have veterans who can score. And then I have a great bench player in Derek White / a guy that can start on any given night and make shots. So I don't like this one as much, Grant.
Okay, well, here's number 3, Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls, they most likely want to blow it up. Those are the reports. It seems like maybe they were on the verge of competing for something for a year or so, but Lonzo Ball's injury was a problem, and then the other players are just getting older. It's starting to fray, basically. The DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic core, it's coming to its end. So in this package, the Boston Celtics would trade Jaylen Brown and Grant Williams, 2 common themes in these, for DeMar DeRozan, we know about him. He's capable 30-point per game scorer, is always going to be consistent from that mid-range, lots of playoff experience. Patrick Williams, one of the few Iron Men in the NBA, played all 82 games this season. Versatile, 3-4-5 defender off the bench, can give you 10, 12 points a game. And then another 2026 first. Like I said, you've got to get some sort of compensation. Maybe you go back in for another player. I don't know how much the Bulls would be willing to give up.
I like this one a lot better. I think DeMar DeRozan, when he's healthy, obviously very effective. Kind of like that Jaylen Brown type guy, will fall right behind Jayson Tatum and be fine with it. Williams going to give you help off the bench, and then a 2026 round first. I mean, great. If we can get a young guy that can score, that's awesome stuff. With Jaylen Brown, I hate to see him go, but I think DeMar DeRozan fills that void pretty well. And then Grant Williams, I like Grant Williams. I think he provides a spark, but I do think his ego is a little big. Like, I would much rather give up Grant Williams than Derek White. So again, I like this trade. If I had to rank them, obviously I think the first one is the best because you're getting Damian Lillard. Second one, I like the Bulls, and then third, I would say the Hawks. I would not do the Hawks if I was in the Celtics front office.
Yeah, I have the same take as you. I like it in that order. Blazers, I think it's far and away the best. If you're in championship now mode, Tatum he was fourth in MVP voting. He's a superstar, but as good as he is, you're getting a true bona fide superstar, someone who's done it for a decade plus, Damian Lillard. This is a guy who had 55 points, 10 assists, made 10 threes in a playoff game. Like, this is Damian freaking Lillard. It's literally called Dame time at the end of games because of how clutch he is.
Yeah, by far. Damian and Jayson Tatum together, combined with Tybal off the bench, playing a little defense, playing some hard-nosed defense with Marcus Smart. I love that trade. And it's win now mode too, because like you said, if you went with the Hawks trade, you're more trying to replace an Al Horford. But this Blazers trade it'd be pretty explosive. It would be, the Celtics would be heavy favorites to win the NBA Finals, like they already were going into this, or when they got hot this season, I should say.
Yep, I agree. I'm glad you like the trades.
I like them. It was the Hawks trade. I think I would never do. I like Derek White, but anytime you include Grant Williams in a trade, get out of here.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for one side of the bracket. And now let's go ahead and talk about the other, or let's talk about what was, because the Lakers were eliminated by the Denver Nuggets in a 4-game sweep, 2-3-0 series between the NBA and the NHL. What's up with the conference finals? Everybody's either up or down 3-0.
No, it's been a really bad playoff series so far. Like, the Lakers got swept. The Golden Knights are up 3-0 on the Stars. The Florida Panthers are up 3-0. Like, it's just been bad. I think the Celtics series, we're going to start to see a little fireworks, but everyone's done pretty much.
I hope so. And one player that we don't hope is done is LeBron James, because after the Lakers loss, it's sort of, I don't know what it felt like to you in the moment, but to me, I tweeted it as soon as the game ended. I said, this feels like this might be the last time we ever see the truly great, magnificent LeBron James. He's 38 years old. He's played 20 years. I feel like he can be good. He can give you 20 to 22, 6 and 6 for a career. But the way he closed out that game, or the series, 40 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds, or 9 assists, 10 rebounds. Said that backwards. I think those days might be a little bit over moving forward. And LeBron maybe seemed to agree a little bit, because at the post-game press conference, he said that he's always said he wants to play with Bronny, but maybe he needs to reevaluate. He's not sure if he's going to be back for next NBA season. Tanner, is it possible that LeBron is actually going to retire?
It's funny. Everyone was complaining on Twitter because once LeBron said this, all SportsCenter was talking about was, the Nuggets sweet, but LeBron might be done. Like, it's LeBron. Like, everyone's just hitting on the key word, LeBron. And I mean, for good reason, he's earned it. But I look at his aspirations to play with Bronny. Bronny wasn't even the best high school basketball player on his team. I don't think Bronny's going to be ready to come out as a freshman. I think Bronny's going to need a lot of time to develop in college. And I don't think LeBron has that much time left in his body to play basketball at a very high level.
So draft experts, from what I've read, are very split on Bronny. I think some of them buy into his potential. This is the comparison I gave him, and I know it's not the sexiest comparison in the world, especially for the son of LeBron James. But I said I think that he can be maybe a better Gabe Vincent, someone who can handle the ball, is going to make smart passes, play tough defense, make some 3-point shots when you need him to. But he is somebody who's going to need time to develop, to your point. And he's also not quite as big as even his younger brother, Bryce, obviously not as big as LeBron. Bronny's about 6'2", 6'3". So some draft experts say, look, buy into the potential as a two-way player and a three-point shooter, great understanding of the game. You know, if you're LeBron's son, then you're going to have a great IQ. Some people are saying that he can be a top 10 pick after as a one and done. And then there are other experts who are saying this is somebody who needs 3 years in college before they're going to be ready to go to the NBA. Now, I'm just going to assume that part of that variance is because it is LeBron's kid. That's got to weigh in the back of some GM's mind, because if you draft Bronny the first year possible, there's a pretty decent chance that you're also going to end up with LeBron. And even if LeBron is some 18-5-5 player at that night, 18-5-5 is useful, and it's LeBron freaking James. You're going to have more eyes on you than anywhere in the world. Think about during Kobe's retirement tour. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen with Bronny. Do I personally believe that LeBron is retired at the end of this season? No, I don't. I think what this is I think it's a ploy to get the Lakers front office to be more active. Like you were saying with Jaylen Brown, with his comments, how that is used by athletes to get what they want in contract negotiations, whatever it might be. I think LeBron, he has another year left on his deal. Kyrie Irving is a free agent. I know LeBron's tight with Paul George, who's obviously in town. The Clippers might be looking to break up that roster, especially since Paul George makes so much money. I think he's sort of encouraging Rob Pelinka, saying, hey, I appreciate the moves you made for me at the deadline. You saw what we did. We were one of the jokes of the NBA. You finally made some good trades. And then we were, by record, the best team in the NBA. As soon as that happened, we were a 7 seed that made it to the conference finals. And if LeBron didn't have a season-ending foot injury, which he played through, maybe the Lakers could have won it all this year. You never know. So I think it was just LeBron motivating Rob Pelinka to be active in the summer.
Yeah, I do too. LeBron's not ready to retire. Obviously, we saw what he did in the fourth quarter, and we saw not fourth quarter. We saw what he did throughout the entire game. He was fantastic. But with his son too, I think that comment was also taking a little pressure off his son in the sense of like, you don't have to go to college, play 1 year and leave. Like if you're not ready, I don't want you to come out, because that's not fair to him, right? If he can play 3 years and be a top 10 pick, great. If he's not ready to be a top 10 pick after his first year, like don't make him come out. So I think that was also another comment made to show his son that like, hey, like do you. Like this is not my career, this is your career. And I think that's pretty commendable. If they can play together, great. But if they can't, I think he doesn't want his son coming out early just to maybe get a year with them.
Yeah, I think that's actually very insightful. And LeBron has been sort of reflective on how he's been able to parent Bronny. He's talked about obviously being in the NBA, can't be at all of his games and stuff, even though you still see him out there on social media a lot. But he says one of his biggest regrets is naming him LeBron James Jr. That was his real name. Bronny was his nickname until he got it changed illegally. And LeBron always says it's one of the biggest mistakes he's ever made, putting that pressure on Bronny. So like you were saying, I think LeBron, I'm sure he would love to play on the same NBA court as his son. But I do think, like you said, it's just a bit of humility, a bit of warning, saying, look, this is your life. Like you said, take your time. Come out when you're ready. If I'm around, then we can play together. If not, I have no ill will, and I've got no problems. LeBron has things he wants to do. He has Maverick Carter and Rich Paul. They're waiting to take over Hollywood or whatever they want to do. They want to host their game shows. They want to start TV shows, whatever it's going to be. LeBron wants to own an NBA franchise. NBA is probably going to get an expansion team in Vegas relatively soon. So he's got stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, and he wants to watch his kids. He wants to watch his kids play basketball, and you can't blame him for that, right? So I look at Bronny, and I think another thing too, Bronny could have went to LeBron and said, hey, like, Dad, like, I don't want to play with you. Like, as cool as it would be, like, hey, I want to create my own legacy. So if I got to spend 4 years in college, I got to spend 4 years in college kind of deal. But anyways, Grant, enough Bronny talk there. Can LeBron and AD win a championship together if you add a little talent, if you give them Kyrie and Kyrie doesn't, flame out in the middle of the season?
So this is the thing with the new collective bargaining agreement, the tax thresholds are different, and I haven't done the full breakdown. I'm going to assume it would be pretty impossible, or if it is possible, very damaging for them to sign Kyrie. That being said, I think they need a Kyrie on this team. You simply can't win with what Anthony Davis is doing on offense. You can't have him give you 40 in game one and then give you 14 the next night and then 34 the next night and then 8 the next night. It's just not tenable with this version of LeBron. If LeBron was the Miami Heat LeBron, even if he was the 2018 Cavs LeBron, maybe you could get away with it. You can't do it right now. I think you need another scoring guard. D'Angelo Russell was supposed to be there, and that's why when everybody was ripping Darvin Ham for refusing him to take him out of the lineup, even though he was playing so bad, I was the one saying, guys, the Lakers have no hope of winning the finals if they don't have a scoring guard who they can go to consistently. That was supposed to be D'Lo, and it wasn't. So is Kyrie going to be the answer? I don't know. Apparently, Rob Pelinka wants to keep the young core of guys together, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves being the biggest two from that. But I do think you need another big-name scoring guard to come in here. And this isn't necessarily a star-driven league. There are stars on every team, so now it's come down to what is the supporting cast around them. Even if you bring in a all-NBA level guy, I would almost look at them as a supporting cast to this LeBron Anthony Davis core, because they prove they can be one of the best teams in basketball. I just don't think they can win an NBA Finals with just the two of them.
Austin Reeves is on the media guide next year, Grant, for sure. It's LeBron, AD, Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves was awesome in these playoffs, by the way. He an undrafted guy who was on a two-way deal and they could barely find his way on the floor. Now there were times you would say he was the Lakers' best player in these playoffs. Just to think about that. A second-year undrafted guy who's sometimes the best player on a LeBron James team. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, he's going to be like, if you go to like a bunch of darties this year on college campuses, like the Austin Reeves jersey will be the most popular jersey out there. The Austin Reeves black Lakers jersey is going to be the jersey.
Yep, 100%. And now let's talk about their opponent, because we haven't given them their sign. The Denver Nuggets, look, they're in the NBA Finals. They're awaiting the winner of the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. Jamal Murray, as a second option, became the first player in league history to put up 30 points per game on 50, 40, 90 shooting splits in the conference finals. Nikola Jokic already has the most triple-doubles in the playoffs. He's averaging a 30-point triple-double. Right now, he's 9th in scoring for champions, so players that won championships that season. And again, he's got the triple-double. He's averaging 13 rebounds, 10 assists. This team looks really good. I think they're playing the best basketball at the best time of the year, obviously. If the Heat are going to make it to the finals, then I think it presents a problem, because the Heat got the better coach. No offense to Michael Malone, but Eric Spoelstra's the best coach in the league, and the Heat simply don't roll over. And then if somehow the Celtics get there will be nobody in the history of basketball that will have had more momentum than the Celtics had. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup no matter who we get.
So I think this matchup comes down to how well can Jamal Murray play. Obviously, we know Nikola Jokic is going to be fantastic, but Jamal Murray was consistently hitting every single three-pointer he could down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Tough shots, contested shots, wide open looks. It didn't matter. He made everything. And you got to think, is this going to be sustainable throughout the remainder of the playoffs for them, throughout the NBA Finals? I don't know if it will be. It's kind of like we look at the Heat, right? They shot 51% from the three-point line in game 3. Is that sustainable again in the series? If it is, they're going to be hard to beat, but I don't know if we're going to consistently get that.
Yep, I agree with you. I think we got to watch that two-man game, Jokic-Murray. That's going to be so key for them. I don't really want to break down the individual matchups too much, because the Celtics do have life right now, but just know that I'm looking forward to whatever we get. I don't like these people complaining on Twitter, by the way, that we're going to get a Nuggets versus Heat series. Nobody won this. These are the teams playing the best basketball at the best time of the year. Why don't you want to watch the best product that you can get?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, it's the NBA Finals. It doesn't matter who's in it. I think it's going to be exciting no matter what. And you got Jimmy Butler. That's a star right there. You got Nikola Jokic. Can he win his first? There's a lot of storylines that go into these finals, no matter who's in it. And if the Celtics somehow beat the Heat, you got that storyline. The only team ever to come back 3-0 coming to the NBA Finals, but their coach sucks. So how does that affect it? It's going to be exciting time before we hit the dead period of the summer.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Let's change gears here and let's get on over to the football field, the gridiron. Let's continue with what we've been doing for the past few weeks. We are doing week-by-week breakdowns of every division in the NFL. This week, we are talking about the AFC North. And right now, the betting favorites, according to these odds, are from BetMGM Sportsbook. If you guys want to get yourself a promo code for BetMGM, head on over to WSN, the World Sports Network. Redeem the BetMGM promo code. You can get back up to $1,000 in bet credits if your first bet misses. Super good deal. You don't want to miss out on that. The BetMGM favorites for the AFC North are no surprise. The Cincinnati Bengals, -125. Their over-under is set at 11.5 wins. Last year, they were 11-0 when they scored 21-plus points, whereas they were 1-4 in games where they did not. Now, they lost both of their starting safeties, Von Bell, Jesse Bates. Well, this is still a very good team, one of the most explosive offenses in the league, a consensus top 2, top 3 quarterback in the league. That's the most important position. What are you expecting from the Bengals this year?
I'm expecting Joe Burrow. That's what I'm expecting. Joe Burrow, Grant, Joe Shiesty, the best quarterback in the NFL. Maybe not, but if you talk about the coolest, calmest, and most collected quarterback right now, my mind automatically goes to Joe Burrow. He's a guy that his heart rate doesn't elevate. I don't know. I told the story to you. I think it was either you or my other buddy, but Joe Burrow had a teacher in high school, and that high school teacher told his parents that he identifies the same kind of characteristics as serial killers, stuntmen, people that do crazy things, right? Their heart rate just doesn't elevate in times of high pressure. And Joe Burrow is that guy. And I think the way their season ended last year in a game that they really should have won against the Kansas City Chiefs, it wasn't for a stupid mistake. I mean, I think he's going to be driven. I think they're going to come back. They got a very good offensive line that they're starting to develop. They got really good targets in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Again, this team just keeps getting better and better. Their core is there, and they're adding in those pieces that they need to be successful. I see them winning this division.
Yeah, I do too. I like them at -125. Could be a little bit better. They're going to come under fire from some other teams we're going to talk about here in just a second, but those aren't awful odds. The Bengals, what also gets lost when you talk about them most of their time is their defense is solid. They get after the quarterback. They don't give up a ton of points. This is a well-rounded team and one that is slowly changing from a young team. They are still a young team, but now they're sort of hitting their stride, really entering their prime. They know what their general roster is going to be, who their main contributors are. They're going to slightly retool every year. And now every year we want to get to and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. When the Bengals went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, it was oh, the Bengals are here. Who's Joe Burrow? Who's this? Burrow, he's kind of developing. We don't know if he's going to be that guy. Then he proved he is that guy. And obviously they're not the hunted anymore. They're the hunters. They are the Ooh, I'm getting excited talking about Joe Burrow. They are the hunter in this division.
Then another team that is on the hunt, Baltimore Ravens +250, over under right at 10 wins. You're not getting the benefit of the half, which makes it a little bit tougher. The Ravens have won 10.5 games per season since Lamar Jackson was drafted. And Tanner, I know that you've been frustrated by Lamar being out of the lineup, but even with that happening, they've still been able to win those 10.5 games. So you've got to figure he's going to be in there full time, assuming he doesn't suffer a major injury because he just got his brand new shiny contract. He's going to be fully motivated to play every game. That's good for them. John Harbaugh wins a bunch of regular season games. That's practically all he does. And this Ravens defense, once they got Roquan Smith in the middle of last season, throughout the rest of the season, second in points allowed, third in yards allowed. This is a very good team from top to bottom. And of course, you drafted Zay Flowers, brought in Odell Beckham Jr. You've got more weapons for Lamar to work with.
Yeah, I like OBJ. I like Zay Flowers. I love Zay Flowers. He was one of my favorite receivers coming out of school at BC. The thing I'm worried about here when you look at Lamar, and I know he's gotten paid, but does he really want to play, Grant? That's my biggest question. Does he want to be out there and compete? Because a true competitor, I think, wants to be out there no matter what. He had a chance to lead his team to the postseason last year, and he packed it in. He said, no, I'm good. And I know he was trying to get the contract and all that, but I feel, and I'm a big believer in this one, guys in college opt out of bowl games and all that, and teams don't seem to care anymore. I believe that the best thing to show, and I feel everyone thinks this, the best way to go out and earn a contract is to play through pain, is to get the job done, is to go out there and not hold any excuses and lead your team and be the face of a franchise. I didn't see that with Lamar. I don't have a lot of love for Lamar because of that, so I can't really bet on them to win this division in any way whatsoever. It's Joe Burrow. Because I'll tell you what, I think Joe Burrow's out there even if he's trying to earn a contract or not.
I think you're being too harsh on Lamar, and we're going to have our questions answered, or our positions resolved by the end of this NFL season. It's not going to take long to find out if it was a contract thing or not.
Yeah, we're going to find out if he truly wants to be in Baltimore. We're going to find out if he's being a wuss or not. That's what we're going to find out very quickly. If Lamar goes through the whole season, he's playing through pain, it's clear that he's doing that. He's battling, he's fighting, he wants to win football games. My stance will change on Lamar, but until further notice, I am not a Lamar guy.
I think those two teams, they are both probably going to make the playoffs. Both put them down for 10, 11 wins. I think it's going to be really tough for either one of them to get by. We didn't even pick, by the way, Bengals over and a half, 11 wins. For me, I would probably, I think it's going to be 11 or 12. So I don't have a great lean. I think this is a tough division. Maybe it is going to be 11, but I think they're going to win the division. I would be more comfortable betting them at minus 125 than the over under of 11 and a half. And then the Ravens over under 10. I would go over because you're not getting the half. So if it falls out at 10, you get a push, you get your money back. That would be my strategy there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I would say go over on the 11.5 wins, but you're getting the same juice for them to win the division. So I'd take them to win the division. And then with the Ravens, I'd probably just stay away from it. I need to see what Lamar is going to do now that he's gotten paid. But the Browns is a team that, I don't really like that much. Deshaun Watson, we got to figure out what he's going to do this season. Last year, he showed signs of being good, but he didn't play that much, right? So when Deshaun was elite, he was very good, obviously. He was in a rhythm, but I don't know if we're going to get that Deshaun Watson back in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think Deshaun Watson was that good, maybe for a drive here and there, but his stats and the eye test, it just didn't look that good. And he had been away from the game for 2 years, so maybe you can talk about the rust factor, but sometimes it's just you're away for 2 years. You're not the same player that you were. When Deshaun Watson left, he was a top 5 quarterback in the league. Let's look around the league right now. We've got Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Hurts. You're not cracking those guys. Let's get into the next tier. Herbert. Did I say Hurts already? So we've got Herbert. We've got Lamar. We've got Aaron Rodgers. Again, it's a tough crowd to get into. Trevor Lawrence.
I'd put Mac Jones ahead of him right now, because I don't know what we're going to get out of Deshaun Watson. Last year,
I mean, based on last year, I would too. Now, I think Deshaun Watson has a higher ceiling than Mac Jones, but I wouldn't. Bottom line, if I'm drafting my quarterback for next year, Deshaun Watson's not in my top 20 picks. No. And so for the odds to only be at plus 350 for the Browns to win this division, honestly, I think they should be last in this division. Their over-unders at 9 wins. I'm going under. They have a good front seven with Myles Garrett, guy who perennially is a defensive player of the year candidate, but their secondary is weak. They could use more weapons on the outside. They've won more than 8 games just one time in the last 15 years. That's hard to overcome, especially with your guy, Massage Parlor, under center.
Massage Parlor, Deshaun Watson. The biggest thing for the Browns is just bet Nick Chubb over rushing yards every week, and you'll be happy. That's all you got to do. Nick Chubb over rushing, and you're going to make some money. That's the only thing I'll take with the Browns this season. Steelers, Grant. I like the Steelers better than the Browns here. I think Kenny Pickett got better and better as the season went on. He led some big game-winning drives last year. I still don't get behind him. I can't support a quarterback that wears gloves on 2 hands. Like, it's just not my thing at all. Don't you feel the same way? I feel a little biased when I see a quarterback wearing throwing.
No, I'm laughing because it's funny, but I definitely agree. My franchise quarterback can't wear gloves on both hands.
The guy that I'm putting on the media guide cannot wear a glove on his throwing hand every game of the season. Like, that's just wrong. Can't do that. They added Allen Robinson as we were talking about, as we talked about off camera, but they added Allen Robinson here. I think they're going to be good. I think their defense is going to carry them, but Kenny Pickett, I need to see what he can do consistently. Like, he led some game-winning drives. He was big in spots last year. What are you going to do this year? Now you're the full-time starter. You're the guy. Can you do it consistently?
Tanner, I'm just thinking about this. Can you throw the ball 50 yards down the field multiple times per game every week for an entire season wearing a glove on your hand?
I don't know. I'm sure you can. Like, he obviously likes it, but he doesn't wear I'm not in the locker room with him, but it doesn't look like it's like a legitimate throwing glove. I remember like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in like cold weather games or rain games used to wear a glove to get a better grip. Like, it's like he's wearing like a Nike Vapor Jet regular glove that the receivers are wearing.
Yeah, I don't understand. I'm just thinking back to whenever I tried to throw a ball with a glove. I just feel like I would give up after a while.
Yeah, I was always like, I long snapped in high school. So like I would wear gloves for that. I felt like I got a better grip on the ball. Cause also I was playing offensive line. My hands were sweaty and I couldn't take my gloves off. But yeah, I can't put someone on a media guide that's wearing a glove on his throwing hand. It looks so stupid.
Okay, let's talk. Let me get us back on track here. So the Steelers, the whole selling point of their team is the defense. I forget the exact number. They were something like 7-1 or 8-1, something like that when TJ Watt came back from his injury last year. It looked like Mike Tomlin's streak of never being under 500 was going to come to an end. Surprise, surprise. He found a way to get it back, and they finished above 500. Or no, they tied a game, didn't they? So they finished at 500 for the 16th straight season of him not having a losing record. I do think the Steelers defense is going to be one of the 2 or 3 best in football. I think it's amazing. It was amazing last year, considering how toothless the offense was. For them to rank 10th in points and 11 yards is a much better achievement than it sounds like. This is, by the way, this is something that people get too obsessed with the numbers at sometimes, and they just don't watch the games. The Steelers, they weren't converting on third downs. They had no passing attack. They couldn't score points. Opponents, they played them how they wanted to. So for them to rank 10th in points, it's pretty good. It's the same way the Washington Commanders were top 5 in points allowed last year, but nobody thought that they were a top 5 defense. And you want to know why? They were number 1 in the league in time of possession on offense, because all they would do was run for 3 yards every play. So the opponents couldn't touch the ball. But as soon as they did, they could score anytime they wanted to. So don't get totally caught up in the numbers. But I love the addition of Cole Holcomb in the linebacking core. He's a thumper. He's going to fit perfectly into this ethos that they have over there. I love the pick of Joey Porter Jr. in the draft. Hard-nosed guy, son of a legend. He's coming in, probably going to start on day 1 at cornerback. I think it's a super good defense. The offense has room to improve. That's what I can say. Kenny Pickett's in his 2nd year. Najee Harris going into his 3rd year. You've got weapons over there, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Allen Robinson. It's set up for them to succeed. They just have to grow into that potential that they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best bet on the board here might honestly be Steelers over 8.5 wins. Just knowing Mike Tomlin's resume, knowing how well the defense is, and seeing what Kenny Pickett did last year, I think it's a decent bet. 9-8 is a good season for this team, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a sweat. But just knowing that Mike Tomlin is a guy that finishes above 500 and makes sure of it, I like the 9-8.
Yep, I absolutely agree. My favorite bet there, over 8.5 wins. And maybe plus 650, maybe put a little bit money on them to win the division. I definitely wouldn't hammer it, because I still think the Ravens and the Bengals are a better team. But when it gets to the end of the season and you're looking back on the head-to-head matchups with your conference or with your divisional opponents, I think the Steelers can easily split 3-3 in this division. They've got the defense too.
Yeah, defense wins championships, especially in the AFC North. So I don't think that's a bad bet at all.
Tanner, let's close out the show here with our favorite segment, the Did You Hear? And there's only one thing that we're going to talk about today, because it was the story of the weekend. It's a pulls on the heartstrings. It's an emotional thriller. Michael Block, the 46-year-old club pro who made the cut for the PGA Championship, a guy who was charging $150 an hour for golf lessons at his local club, takes home a paycheck of nearly $300,000. He will be back for the PGA Championship next year. This is what sports are about, plain and simple.
Yeah, 2,000 lessons. It would have taken him 2,000 lessons to win what he won in one weekend at the PGA Championship. He'll be back in the PGA Championship next year. He's playing in the event this weekend, the Charles Schwab Invitational. So Michael Block, it's America's story. He also had a hole-in-one. Like, imagine that. You're a PGA, you're a golf pro, local golf pro. You go to the PGA Championship, a major tournament. You have a great round. You win $300,000. You get a hole-in-one, and you get to play your final round with Rory McIlroy. Like, come on.
There was a Netflix crew. Did you see this? There was a Netflix crew that was following him during his final round. And I'm just going to use my intuition to say that they were there to film Rory McIlroy. And they made an in-the-moment decision and said, you know what? We've got content right here, baby. We are going all in on Michael Block.
So Netflix does that, like, the Drive to Survive equivalent for Formula One that they do on Netflix. They do that for golf. I don't know what it's called. I've never watched it, but apparently it's really good. And they definitely pivoted. Like, the producers were like, okay, like when we're talking about this event on that show, we're focusing all in on Michael Block.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, one of the coolest moments in sports. Every year, every few months, you get something like that. And this just happened to be that. But huge shout out to Michael Block. That's a life-changing moment for him. And it's probably he said it himself. He said, there will never be a better point in my entire life. So I'm just going to enjoy it while I can. That was awesome to hear. So congratulations to Michael Block.
Yeah. And if he does that, if he's able to go to the PGA Championship every year and perform decent, that's $300,000 a year right there.
And he vaulted from 3,600 to 500 something in the world golf rankings.
Yeah. So he'll probably be invited to play at more of these tournaments. And, if he keeps winning, he's going to be in great shape.
Yep. And you can also be in great shape, guys, as we close out the show here. If you are subscribed to the channel, we've got all sorts of content coming out all the time. Betting picks, analysis, insights, reactions to sports headlines, you name it. We've got it all here. Tanner's doing a great job on social media as well. Make sure you go follow the World Sports Network on its social media accounts, Twitter, TikTok, all that great stuff. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And Tanner, why don't you get us on out of here?
That was Ride the Line, the greatest show in sports betting entertainment. We will see you next week for another episode.